Good evening, everyone. I'm sitting here near sunset time, a very spiritual, meditative time, and I wanted to go by and talk to my beloved Richard at the lovely gravesite. I want to say that I've had an awful experience with Richard's son, and I explained it in my other videos, but I do want to say that I am grateful to him for finding such a beautiful spot, and I would like to tell him that, but it's just been a nightmare experience with him. Unfortunately, I never wanted it that way. I've known Brett since he was 12 years old, and it just surprises me, what came down during the 3 weeks of my absence after Richard died. I wasn't here, and what he did in our home, well, I'm not going to repeat because I explained that in the video called Nightmare with Stepson. I didn't know what else to call him. He's not exactly a stepson. He's just Richard's son, and that's how I look at it. But I did want to. I was really tempted. I started to write a very nice email to him and tell him, Brett, with all the things that came down that just, you broke my heart in 1,000 pieces. In addition to my heart already being just beyond any kind of pain that I felt in my life, losing Richard. But the one thing that you did right, Brett, was finding that beautiful spot. It's just a gorgeous place to sit and pray and talk to Richard. He's not there in that grave, but as far as where he was buried and a place to spend a little time and talk with him, and my dog Schmickles also loves it. Like the other day, we were sitting there, and I was playing some songs for him on my phone that I thought he would enjoy. Songs that I know that represented him, that I spoke about in the video. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. And there was a beautiful woman that put the prayer Kadesh in song, and I played that. And I just talked to him and told him what I'm going through, things that I'm trying to work out, and that I need his guidance. I need to have his guidance, and I know he is. And when he sent those 4 deer out there, I knew the soul has a way of communicating with animals, and the way they were so peaceful, they saw me and my dog, and they didn't run off. They came closer, as a matter of fact. Instead of moving further away, they came closer. And I got a little video of it. It's a short video. It's only like a minute long. And Schmickles, what I wanted to say is, he held perfectly still, not even a single bark. He saw them. And what's funny is, if he saw a deer on our ranch walking around, he would go nuts. He's seen deer on our ranch, and even from inside the house, he somehow senses when they're there, and he goes nuts. He wants me to, he starts barking, and, But when we were sitting there by Richard's grave, and the 4 deer came up, it might have been a family of 4, he just was very calm and looked at them, and I told him, I said, your daddy sent them because, we're his parents, me and Richard, and I said, uh, your daddy sent those deer to us, and he understood. He was very quiet and watched them very peacefully with me. And the other day when we were sitting there, he he just laid down in the grass, and after I finished talking with Richard, it was getting a little bit dark, so I said, okay, Schmickles, it's time for us to go home. And he didn't want to go. He just really loved just laying there in the grass next to Richard's grave. He didn't want to leave. I know he misses him. And, dogs are very spiritual. They have some kind of, I don't know, divine ability to discern things that we humans can't. And I've said, I've wondered whether he has seen Richard, because I'm limited, but dogs have the ability to see spirits. And I don't know, sometimes I think he's seen them, because I can see a look in his eyes, and he's staring, and I don't know what he's staring at. And I would say, what are you looking at, Schmickles, so intently? And we're in my room, and he's just sitting there staring at something, and I wonder if he could see Richard's soul. I'm not sure, but dogs have deep intuition of things that we aren't capable of seeing, locked into our, normal brain that blocks everything out. But they have pure consciousness and unconditional love. And the one thing that I thought did make Brett a little bit more compassionate and loving was having a dog. I know he's a big dog lover. I know that. And I thought, well, if he's a dog lover, he's got to have a heart. But, when it comes to property and money and that sort of thing, it's just like something inside of him turns off as far as his compassion and empathy and whatever love he might have had for dogs. All of that is shut down when it came to me. Maybe if I was a dog, he would have some compassion, and he wouldn't have done to me what he did, in our home, taking things that he should not have taken. But I'm just sitting here wanting to share some thoughts, and I didn't know if anybody else was going through a similar situation of losing their beloved one, and then having, the family members that, just all of a sudden they turn into vultures. It's like, they come in and sweep down and just want to take everything that they think belongs to them. And like I said in my other video, I can't reach him. I've tried many times, including when I was in Maui. I tried so hard to reach his heart with loving emails, telling him, whatever, losing your dad, we're going to get through this, Brett, and we're going to get through it together. Things like that I would say. And the only thing he had in mind was, I'm going to take it all and get rid of Jackie. That was his goal. His father died, and that was it. It was like he wanted to sweep me out with the trash. And nothing could be more hurtful than that. Um, because I thought we had a relationship. I thought we had a good relationship. We used to have a lot of good talks together about literature and poetry, and I tried so hard to encourage him on any of his goals. He fought against continuing his education, and I said, "You're an A student, Brett. You can do it. You can get your PhD." And he fought against it. He said, "It's going to take 10 years." I said, "Oh, that's ridiculous. It will take you at the very most 3 years." And he was like, he got nasty and kind of ugly with me. It was like, I don't know why he got so angry with me when I tried to persuade him, but then he finally listened, and he went ahead and pursued, his PhD, and I was right. It didn't take him very long. He could have got his PhD a lot sooner, but he waited till the last minute to finally get his dissertation in. But anyway, my point is that I always try to be a good influence on him. And so, Brett, if you're listening to this, maybe some of that might ring a little bell of memory for you. I never meant any harm to you. I would never dream of doing any harm to you. I had no problem whatsoever about sharing the way, your dad wanted it to be set up. No problem at all. In fact, I was willing to even go beyond that and help you to get more than what, the 50-50. I was willing to work out whatever you thought would be good for you. I wanted to be on the ranch. I wanted to set things up where, since it's 50-50 and there's 2 parcels, and that I could have the part where the cabin is, because that's where your dad and I lived for 48 years, and you would have the other side. But I just was open to any suggestions. And if he had just said to me, like, maybe a normal decent son of Richard's, if he had just said, "You know what, Jackie, I'm not going to touch anything in the house. I don't want to go through anything. I'm going to just wait until you get home, and we'll go through everything together, and we'll sort things out. Okay, do you want this? That's fine." And I would say, "Brett, it's not like I want this to own, X, Y, or Z, but I do believe certain things believed in the house. And I think that's what your dad would have wanted, to have certain things in the cabin. Like the prayer, the Hebrew song prayer that he had framed above the stairway, that belonged in the house. His crystals, his beautiful crystal collection, those are things I think belonged in the house. Not that I want to own them. It's just that I think that was their home. That was their place where they were happy to be. Because I believe everything has a certain intelligence. As Pythagoras said, astonishing. Everything is intelligent. Everything has a certain vibration, and especially the things that belong to Richard, they had certain sacred properties. And what I tried to tell Brett is, I'm older than him. I'm like 10 years older than him, and I'm going to be the one to go first if we go by natural law. And so in the end, it would all go to him anyway, say I kick off like at 80, which I'm not at all afraid of death. I look forward to it after Richard died because I know I'm going to be with him completely as a total, absolute union with him through spirit and soul and love and God's eternal light. I look forward to that. I've been studying metaphysics practically all my life since I was 16 years old. And I was always interested in what is beyond this physical world. That question always was something I was interested in a spiritual way. You know, part of my spiritual questions that I had since I was very young. What happens after death? I was always interested in that question. And I know I'm going to be with him, so I'm not at all afraid of death. I know what's coming. I know he's waiting for me. But my point is that the way your dad had it in the will, it's like, okay, if I go first, everything goes to you, and then if something happens to you, it would be with me, so that the government doesn't take it all, right? You know, we don't want that. So I just, it puzzles me because if he had just worked with me and said, hey, you know, I want to wait till you get home. We'll do this all together, and we'll work it all out together. And like I said, you know, it's not like anything to me. These things aren't something like, oh, I own it. It's mine. This is all mine. And, you know, I didn't have that attitude. It was like certain things belonged in your dad's home. That's where he wanted them. That's where they belonged, including Ma B's little, her little signature book where Richard had set up a little memorial for Ma B. I mean, you even took that. You took his crystals. You took the prayer, certain sacred things that I didn't see as belonging to me, but they belonged in the home that he loved. And, you know, so what? In the end, they will all go to you. You know, that's the way the will is set up. But it was like you just stripped down the house without any respect, including his van where he had all his little precious things. Oh, when I went through and tried to get everything back in order again in that van, and it just made me cry because he had the little, you know, special things that he loved on survival, but you tore it apart looking for cash because you knew that he had cash in there. It was all, it's all about money with you. It's all about money. Even the things that you took that are sacred, like that prayer that Poppy had, and Richard put it in that perfect place. I mean, it just fit so perfectly above the stairway there, so you could see it almost like as you go down the stairs and you look at it, and it's like a little prayer that blesses you as you go down the stairs. You didn't take that for sentimental reasons. You took it to see how much you could get for it, you know, because it has historical, valuable, you know, it's a collectible. You know, it probably is worth quite a bit of money, actually. But it seems like sacrilegious to even think of it as something you would make money off of. And I mean, what really, the truth kind of came out of your mouth when the sheriff came so that I could try to get my 2 laptops that you stole, and, you know, my my memory chips that had Twinkie on them and Snappers, and my videos. You took all of the memory chips. My mother's money. You had no right to take my mother's money. I mean, that's a crime of burglary. And I just thought, why? Why did you do this? And the answer came to me when the sheriffs came, and, suddenly you just blurted out right in front of them. And they'll remember it too if they have to be called as a witness or something. But you just blurted it out. I didn't think Jackie had the will. And I thought, oh, okay. So you didn't think I had the will. So therefore, that gave you the right to take anything you wanted in there, including my personal belongings, my mother's cash, my laptops, my Levi jacket, and all of Richard's sacred, from anything that was valuable you stole, including his crystals. I mean, he collected those crystals. He bought crystals. That was a collection that he had that started years ago. And I mean, it took him years and years to build up those crystals, and it wasn't for money. They all had a purpose. They all served a purpose for him. And when he wasn't feeling well, he knew how to use those crystals to make him feel better. If he had a really bad headache, he knew which crystal to put on his head to make the headache go away. He was very spiritually in touch with things like that. You just looked at him and, I wonder how much money I can get from these, I just, I don't understand this kind of thinking, and I never will. Thank God. I would never dream of doing anything like that. Never dream of doing anything like that to you. Never. I mean, if it'd been the other way around, and I was here when your dad died, and you were out of state and couldn't get back for 3 weeks, I would have said, Brett, just, I'm leaving everything alone. When you get back, we will go through everything together here. What, if there are things that you want, I will be more than happy to, agree, and sort all of that out. If you said, Jackie, I really would like to have this. I really would like to have that. I would have gone along with it. But, even the will, like the crystals, you're not supposed to take all those crystals. In the probate, you're going to have to give half those crystals back. And everything that you stole, it's 50-50, my dear. So you are going to have to give whatever cash you took, whatever, possessions you took that didn't belong to you. You're going to have to give it back, and the probate court's going to make you do it. So I wasn't planning on making a video about this. It just kind of turned into more of my message on you, and my message to you. And I just feel like I want to be open with it, with the video. Let other people hear it, because I know there are other people that are experiencing the same thing. Family members that just rip each other apart out of greed. And then there are other family members that are not greedy at all, and they don't understand, why they're behaving like that except out of greed. So that's my video for tonight, and I just wanted to show the beautiful sunset. This is what Richard used to like to do. At sunset, he would park his VW camper van right down, about 20 feet from here, and he would open up the van door and sit on the couch in there and just kind of meditate and look at the view, and this would be the time that he would sit out there and have his spiritual space. And when I saw what you did to that van, all of his things thrown on the floor, didn't even bother to neatly put things back, just absolutely just sacrilegious and just shameless. So that's all I have to say.